Hi everyone, and welcome back to QuantumAcacias. I'm actually doing this right after I did the underground water cave, the first part at least. So this is not part 2, but I have to talk about this dream because I was just researching it, and I was looking into HOPI prophecy, which talks about blue kachina and red kachina, and I haven't really gotten into it. Oh, excuse me. But I was like, you know what, let me just do like a quick little search and see what they were saying about the water aquifers and the water returning back to the desert. And I have to read this, you guys. I have to read this and then talk about this dream about stone tablets. Now, it's going to probably seem like I am going all over the place. Ooh, 214. I saw 214 when I was doing this other one as well. I just didn't mention it. So 214 is definitely coming up. So Valentine's Day, and that's nice. Okay. So I actually saw this at 9:36 and it's 9:42 right now, and I'm on 369 method right now, which is super fun. Okay, so I have to read this, and then we're going to talk about my dream about the stone tablets, which I feel like is connected, and I'm not exactly sure how it's connected just yet, but I feel like it's got to be connected. It's got to be, and this is really fun. Okay, so interesting. I won't, not to just dumb it down to fun, but interesting and insightful. Okay, so there is this website, AUSBcomp.com, and I will say that, so this was North American Indian Prophecy, a talk given by Lee Brown, the 1986 Continental Indigenous Council in Tanana Valley, Fairbanks, Alaska. Ooh, my favorite cousin is in Alaska, is in Fairbanks, not too far from Fairbanks. Okay, so it's talking about a cycle of minerals and rocks, and then it talks about at the beginning of the cycle of time long ago, there was a great spirit that came down, and he made an appearance, and he gathered the people of the earth together, that say on an island which is now beneath the water. He said to human beings, I'm going to send you to 4 directions, and over time I'm going to change you to 4 colors, but I'm going to give you some teachings, and you will call these original teachings, and when you come back together with each other, you will share these so that you can live and have peace on earth, and a great civilization will come about. So I am going to kind of skip over some of this because I want to get to this particular part. But if you look it up, you'll know that you're on the right one, because that's what it talks about. And I think the 3rd paragraph or 4th paragraph, kind of technically. Okay, and this is so interesting because earlier today, I was actually looking up Melchizedek, okay, which I think is King Zodek or Zakar, which is connected to the messenger of Marduk. Now, he could be a, prior god than that, but he was considered to be the dream god, Zakar, which is where we get Zachary from. It's also where we get Siddiq, Zodek, and then sometimes you'll see it with the T, and then in, traditions like the Hasidic Jews, Hasidic Jewish people, they call their leaders, their people that they're aspiring to be, I believe, Zadekim, and it's with the T, Zadekim, something very close to that. And so anyways, it's very, I see 147 too. Interesting. So anyways, Zodek, Melchizedek, King Zodek, King Sedek, King Sadek, truth, Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, right? And then there's a guy who's calling himself the Mahdi, and he is using also Sadiq, the truth or righteousness. And anyways, it was coming up, so I was looking at this this YouTube video called Ancient Mysteries Anunnaki, and they've done really great breakdowns on things. So anyways, I was trying to look and see if they've ever done a breakdown on Melchizedek. And so I ended up hearing in my head this song, and it was the rest is still unwritten. that song by Natasha Bedingfield, but in my head, I was actually thinking about Dido. There will be no white flags above my head. I'm in love and always will be. But Dido. And so I'm like, oh yeah, Dido sings that song. The rest is still unwritten, which is totally wrong, but it's okay because the association, right? So I'm singing that in my head and I'm trying to find this, and then I put my phone down, I go get me something to eat, I come back to my phone, I'm still singing the song, and then instead of continuing to look for the Melchizedek, because I was specifically looking for like Melchizedek, I saw something about King David, and I was like, oh, you know what? Let me look at David. I kid you not, in the video, this guy literally starts talking about David connected to the dodo, connected to Dido, I kid you not, which is the queen of Carthage. But also some stories say that this could be Tanit, who's connected to Baal Hadad, and Dod, are all associated to each other, the same words, which have to do with the beloved, but also which have to do with the child from the void, okay? Well, the child from the womb, okay, we'll say that. And I'll tell you why I'm saying the void, because what I was thinking about was Dudu, okay? Queen Dudu, okay? And Oduduwa, okay? So not the king, the male one. I'm talking about the goddess Oduduwa, who is the Black Pantheress goddess. Okay, and why I'm bringing this up is because there is a story in Yorubaland that talks about Olodumare, the supreme godhead, and he sends Obatala, okay, down to earth to create humanity and like terraform earth. And it's said that he gets drunk on palm wine and he starts messing up humans, which is like the most hilarious origin story of like the different shifts that humans have gone through, like over, eras of time. And so they say he gets drunk on palm wine and he starts messing up humans. And so Olodumare sends down Oduduwa to do it correctly. Okay, now some stories will say that Oduduwa is Obatala's brother. What I personally saw in the dream world, and this is for, I guess, my family line, my lineage, there could be alternate realities where Oduduwa is a brother. That I'm not like negating that. But in the reality that I saw, this was his wife. Okay. And so she is lowered down on this type of like copper type of crane thing. And she has to pull the primordial mound, okay, up from the waters after this flood has happened. Which personally, and I'm going to say personally, I'm not going to say like this is like true throughout everything. I don't know. Personally, I feel like this was not a flood in this particular story, okay? I think there's been multiple flood stories, multiple different floods. They're not all talking about the same exact one. In this particular flood story, okay, this particular one, I believe that this was the melting of ice caps. This was not something that was like sent like to destroy humans. This was like a melting of the ice caps. And it started covering certain lands as it melted. And that water got pushed to different places in Africa. That's what I personally believe, okay? And so anyways, some of the story also talks about Obatala as people are being formed, that he forms them from this pot, okay? And there are 3 different types of etherical clay that he can make people from. There is the white, the red, and the black. And the people say, please, Obatala, make me from the Odu, from the Dudu, okay? Which is the black form. Because the black form is supposed to be closest to the void, closest to the primordial mother. And so they want to be made from the primordial black goo, okay? And so I thought that would be really interesting also to mention here. Okay. It's very interesting how all these things like come back around. Okay. So, which black goo, like in modern time, is connected to supernatural events, even like especially like in Marvel, Venom. Okay, it's associated even in like nanotechnology. It's associated to sentient consciousness within goo-like substance, or some type of sentient being that takes on a goo-like form that can take over the human body if they merge together. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so what this HOPI prophecy says in this talk is that this great spirit comes down. I'm going to skip over some of this, but basically that he gives different directions to different colors of people. Okay, so he says to the south, he gave that to the yellow race, and I'm not going to read all of that right now. Okay, but he says like to the Indian people, who are the red people, he gives guardianship over earth, and I'm assuming that is associated to the east direction. Now this is where it gets interesting. He says to the west, he gave the black race of people the guardianship of the waters, and they were to learn the teaching of the water, which is the chief of the elements, and being chief of the elements being the most humble and the most powerful. Okay, then it skips down and he starts talking about that he has talked to people from the black race, and their stone tablets are at the foot of Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya has been coming up so much, and that they are kept by the Kukukuya tribe. Okay, now Kuku also reminds me of cacao. Now there's a whole nother dream associated with that I want to talk about, but basically what I did skip over is that this great spirit, along with giving them a direction and a charge, something that they're supposed to do, he also gives each group 2 stone tablets. Okay, now this is where my dream of the stone tablets comes in. Okay, it's wild actually, because so I was doing ancestry DNA, like a while back, like in 2015, like probably when I first got pregnant with my first child. And it took me a little while, probably like a year or two, maybe like 2017, to really get into it. So at first I just did it just to like see what the makeup was and see where, the ancestors that they could at least tap into right now were from. Okay. Ooh, it's 9:54. But then like in 2017, I was like, let me like kind of dig a little bit deeper into this. Okay. And I do want to say the Khoi, they are one of the tribes that talks about a praying mantis god. And I'm going to call him Ikanga. I just want to mention that because I forgot to mention that. But, some people have ET experiences and they see praying mantises. I'm one of those people that had some type of contact dream or something like that. And it was like a praying mantis situation. But anyways, getting back to this. So I was going back in 2017, could have been 2018, regardless. And trying to get deeper information on the migrations and different, ways that my ancestry changed over time. And so what I did end up finding, with my family in New York was that they were connected to this person that had a paper mill. Okay. So I wasn't able to really track the migrations and things like that, but I was able to find out what was going on with my family in New York. Okay, that's basically what I'm saying. Okay, so anyways, there was this guy, and his name was Martin, and he had a paper mill in Socrates. Now, I can't say beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is my ancestor directly, right? Because we're talking about, records, and sometimes records are not always super accurate to who the actual baby's parents are. So I can't say with like 1,000% certainty that this is my ancestor, but I will say that I do believe that it is because of this dream, okay? So Martin, okay, he was out in New York in Sagittarius, okay? And I ended up having this dream in 2020 where I was hovering above this like cornfield, child. And it had to be like more than just corn, but I'm just going to call it a cornfield, okay? I was hovering above this cornfield. And I assumed that I was like invisible, even though there was nobody there. I just had the sense that like people wouldn't see me if there were people in this field. So I'm like, okay, cool. Why am I hovering above this cornfield? I also knew that it was somewhere in like the kind of farmlands or something of like upstate New York, which I also have family from upstate New York. So I'm like, okay, cool. This is interesting. I wasn't necessarily connecting it to family necessarily at that point, but I was just like, okay, this is interesting. Like, something's going on with, I'm like, okay, is this, we think about cornfields and things like that. We think about signs. Maybe not everybody, but we think about signs, right? And like ET contacts. I'm like, oh, what's going on with this cornfield? I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going to see. And I was thinking in my mind about like what are they called? Napa mounds or something like that. But they have like all the snake, outlines and things like that. Ooh, child, I don't remember, child. But anyways, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going to see them like do like shapes in the cornfields and stuff. And so anyways, I'm just kind of hovering and nothing's going on. And then all of a sudden from the right side of my visual field, I start to see these two men running through the cornfields. I'm like, what? And so there's two white men, and I immediately, and this is crazy, I immediately recognize Martin. I know him without a shadow of a doubt. I'm like, look at Martin. Now, I have never, I'm coming. I'm gonna be inside. Okay. Let me hurry up, child. Okay, so I've never seen Martin. He died in like the 1800s. I've never seen him in the physical, like he died way before I was born. But in this dream, I immediately knew him. Like, look at Martin. And he was with this guy that had these glasses on and something like that. And like, it looked like this person was like his friend that like helped him out with business deals or something. That's kind of the energy it was giving me. So they were running through this cornfield because they were actually supposed to be going to some type of business deal. Okay. Some type of business deal. And they were trying to sneak this cornfield situation, because at this time I didn't know why they were running through the cornfield, and I knew that they had to be like at some type of business meeting or something. So I'm like, what in the world is he doing in the cornfield? And he's not supposed to be in the cornfield. But this cornfield was not that far off from the main city. So I knew like he would be cutting it close, because it felt like he was like right outside of the city. Like, this wasn't like he drove like 2 and 3 hours to get here. This was like right outside the city somewhere. And so I'm like, what is he doing in the cornfield? What are they doing in the cornfield? So they're running from like the right visual field to like the left. Okay. So they're going deeper into the cornfield, going to the left. Okay. So as I'm looking at them, he has these tablets in his hand, stone tablets, gray stone tablets to be exact. Now, at this point, I don't exactly remember exactly what the writing looked like on the tablets, but it was definitely like old language. Like, child, it was old language. I have no clue what these tablets were saying. But I was like, why in the world is he running in the cornfield with the tablets? Child, I kid you not. The next thing I know, he stops and there are these two huge saucers that come out of nowhere, baby. Okay, out of nowhere, no how. Okay, no face, no case. I'm like, where did they even come from? Now, the aliens that come out cannot see me as well. So at this point, I'm either invisible. I mean, there could be a lot of situations, but I'm leaning towards that I could have been remote viewing the past. And that's why they couldn't see me, because it was not interactive. I was seeing a memory of something that happened. Child, these two saucers, and then there was like this tall white, that's what I'm assuming that it was, an alien. And like they were, like you could see past them. It was like two that came out of the first one, and then like maybe one that came out of the second one. Could have been more, but there was like no more than like three at the most that came out of either one. Okay. But there was obviously like one that was in charge, and he came out. So there's like white light coming out, and he came out through this light, but he was not a dense figure in that way. Now, I think that he could touch matter because he grabbed these tablets, which I'm about to talk about. But he was not dense like us, like where all of our particles are filled in, I guess that's what I was saying. He was kind of like transparent and floating, like almost what you would see like with apparitions of ghosts. However, his leg area was very not there. Like that was very hard to see. The rest of him was easy to see, but he just was not dense, okay? So anyways, child, Martin was supposed to be making some type of deal with these gray aliens, child. And these were tall grays, okay? Now, this was a bad section of them, okay? Because I have had experiences with tall grays, a different version. And this energy, which I would say is feminine, she was an honest person. So this is not like all gray aliens in general. I think about all of these energies, whether, I don't even know if they're aliens, you know what I'm saying? Whatever they are and whatever form they're taking on, these beings, okay? They're just like humans, just like animals. There's mischievous ones, there's good ones, there's naughty ones. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a lot of different variety in that. But anyways, these were more of the, sketchy ones, child. Immediately when this head guy, I'm gonna call him a guy, but gray alien, tall gray alien pops out, I'm like, oh no, this is a bad. Like you could feel it on him, like he's not honest, like he's not that trustworthy. But then I'm like, but Martin ain't being that trustworthy. So that's not surprising. So, child, I don't know what he was supposed to get from this deal. But this tall gray, convinced him to bring these stone tablets. He had 2 of them. These stone tablets to him. And that the tall gray was going to, like, give him something in return. Child, when I tell you that he handed, and he was hesitant about it because he could feel the same thing I'm feeling. He was hesitant about it. He handed those tablets, and when I tell you that gray disappeared faster than I thought, child, the gray was gone, child. The tablets were gone, child. And I really think that he thought he was going to get like some type of resource or maybe even crazily some type of money or something from these beings that he was going to use for this business deal. Honestly, that's what I think. I'm not entirely sure, but that's literally what I think he thought. And so then, like, after they disappear, because there's nothing he could do about it now, he's, like, frustrated, but they still have to go to this meeting. So then they kind of exit stage right. And I guess they go to their business deal. And I'm like, I cannot believe Martin did this. Like, Martin, what are you even thinking about? I was like, I cannot believe him. Martin, what are you doing? And that is my story of the astrals, adventures in the astrals about the stone tablets. And it's really funny because after that astral, there was a guy I was really, really listening to really heavy during this time on YouTube. And he came up literally with this video, and he was talking about some of you are ancients and you worked with stone technology. And he was like, you know how to use stones to connect into Mother Earth and into etheric energies. And I was like, that's so crazy, because I was just dreaming about this stone tablet that this person possibly in my bloodline got zapped up being greedy by a tall gray alien. And yeah, it was very interesting. So I don't know, like, I've seen some interesting things, child. I don't know, like, I don't know if they ended up getting these tablets back or whatever, but it definitely reminds me of the tablets of destiny. So anyways, that's the little astral I wanted to talk about. It's the big astral, it's not a little astral. It's the big one, not the little one. But that's what I wanted to say. And of course, as always, if you have like a similar dream or you've seen something like this, or you want to talk about the HOPI prophecy, I would love like your comment, or you can also send me an email. You can also email me for different services, and all of those different things. So yeah, that's what I have. And I will be back soon to talk about more fun stuff. Okay, bye friends. Oh my gosh, hold on. I absolutely had to come back and say this. And it's so crazy because I love when certain things hang, like, I was about to say, like, anyways, when certain things happen, okay? So literally after I made this last night, it was like 10 o'clock or something like that. I go outside and I'm like talking in the wind, like saying my affirmations and my wishes for things. And I also do like this little tree and money. Like I asked the tree to help me with money. And I'll talk about that at another time because I know that this manifestation is going to come. I just don't know when. And I want to talk about all the things that led up to it, like when it happens. But so I was outside, I was in nature, I was talking to the wind, and it's been like thundering and storming, right? 10:37 right now. Okay, it's been lightning and storming and stuff like that. But it hasn't been raining in Arizona. And so I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, I wonder if it's going to rain. So I put this money like by the tree and I asked the tree to like give us some energy. And I was like, oh, it would be perfect if it rained tonight. And then like it can charge up the land and also this money with some water, with some hydration. Literally, it started raining. I kid you not. It started raining like around like 10:45 or something because I looked at the clock and it was 10:31. And Ray and I, we were talking about watching something before bed, because he like ended up leaving to go out of town this morning really early. So we didn't want to stay up too late, but we wanted to just get a little bit of time, after everything was settled and his bags were packed. So I was thinking about this podcast and I was like, well, maybe we should watch something on the HOPI prophecy. And so we picked this video. So it's not from the guy that, I was talking about with last night with the 4 great spirits and the speaker, even though I did find his video on YouTube and I was going to watch it, but it was longer. I needed like a shorter one. So I ended up picking this guy kind of randomly and I was like, okay, let's just listen to him. And he was talking about the age of technology and how it was going to change things. And the Great Spirit was saying that once they got to, a certain point in the technology age and era, that things were going to like get really bad. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And then this morning, one of my friends who is also indigenous, she literally sent me the same video this morning on TikTok. Like someone had posted it on TikTok and she sent it to me on TikTok. What? So I'm going to post a link to that video and then the speaker, because I'm sure that this has a lot to do with a lot right now. So that's what I'm going to say there. And it's funny because this morning my spirit team is right now. My spirit team, they were like, you're on the right path and you're on the right road. This is not like a lack of direction. This is about, you have not gotten the revelation yet. There is a revelation that needs to come. And you have not gotten that revelation yet. You're waiting on the revelation. It's not the wrong path. It's not the wrong direction that you're moving on. It's the revelation hasn't come yet. So Very interesting. And actually the video that she sent me, the person put on like the video that like Jesus and the Great Spirit are the same. I'm not exactly sure, but I thought that was interesting because Revelation has been coming up kind of like in the form of the brothers of Zebedee. So John of Zebedee and James of Zebedee, which Zebedee is the father. So I had to add that. Bye.